For me, like, marriage is not that, it's not like a goal for me. Like, I think at the end of the day, like, if it ended up working out that made sense, fine. If not, and we just gonna buy a property together and do a ceremony that says, hey, we only doing us. And that has double meaning.
And why isn't marriage for you?
I mean, I think at this point in my life, I just don't feel comfortable bringing the government into my relationship.
The government?
I think there's also just the fact that we just live in a different time. I think once upon a time, marriage was like set as the goal because for a lot of women, just socially, that was our best way at getting access to finance, to safety, to security.
Yeah.
But we're in a different era.
Yeah.
So there's just more options. And it's not to say one is better than the other, but...
I just want to ask, because you shared one side of it, which is true, the government, the financials and all that. But then what about the other side of the commitment, the vow?
If we got to sign a paper for you to be committed to your
Let
word,
'em go.
then I feel like you ain't really committed to your word.
Oh! Listen, I
respect that.
What's her name, Amanda?
Seal.
I don't know much about her. However, I thought that was a real ass point. I thought it was a real ass point that, you know, she doesn't think that it's for her. And then she said she's reached a stage in her life where the government doesn't need to be in it.
Right. I think that's a real statement. I'm not mad at her about that, and I think, like we discussed before, right? It gets muddy when you take what was once a wholly religious construct and you try to interweave it into the secular world, right? Like the government took what was a biblical term and a biblical ideology, a thing, and attached governmental benefits to that, and attached their own definition to that. And so it gets tricky. So I get, you know, if she has a fear of the government being too involved in her life, she wouldn't do it. But the government has gotten involved in a way that, you know, there's certain protections for people that are married that wouldn't necessarily be there if they're not. And so when you start building a family, particularly, you know, it is important to be able to have some of those benefits. But again, it goes back to our definition of being independent too, right? She's saying like a lot of people back in the day, the goal was marriage because that was the only way like women could attain the level of success and security that they felt like they wanted. And in 2020, women don't necessarily have to do that. I agree with that. For me, marriage is definitely solely a spiritual activity. It would be you know what I mean? It would be a spiritual experience for me, a spiritual activity for me. In no way outside of making sure I have the appropriate protection should I need you to be involved in my child's life if we were ever to separate.
So let me ask you a question.
Really
if there wasn't a spiritual component for you, would you have the same feeling as Amanda Seals?
Similar, for sure. I don't know if they would be identical, but similar.
Because you got your own, you do you.
Similar. But it doesn't mean that I would not attain to a relationship with the man.
Got it.
Right? Different. I definitely would want a relationship still. Would I be trying to be married? Probably not. But there are certain restrictions, and we talked about this before too. Like there's certain things I'm going to do and not do, depending on what my status is with the man.
Got it. That's interesting because, you know, when we talked about it before, yes, there was a secular identification that made marriage still true for you. But then there's two other components, right? There's the love and harmony component that some people still try to give as an argument. And then there's also the business argument.
Right. And that's what I mean. I think that's what I was saying. That would be my secular benefit regardless of spirituality.
That would be your secular benefit would be what? The love part?
No, the business.
The business.
Right. I think you can reach love and harmony without marriage if you are not of certain beliefs.
Okay. The business component. So you're talking about like raising children. You're talking about
securing your assets, the assets that you gain together, the assets that you may help him attain to, the assets he may help you attain to. You know, being able to make decisions about the separation of assets depending on what state you're in. Sometimes it's more beneficial for you to be married versus not married. A lot of states have done away with the common law thing whereby you live and you work and you do everything as a married couple in a family. that doesn't mean that you get the same benefits if something were to happen and you were to separate. You know what I mean? So it depends on where you are, what the laws of the particular jurisdiction that you live in say about relationships and the solidification of a relationship by way of marriage.
It does. And you know what my problem is with all of that? Like, and I think because of your education and your background, you can speak from it from a perspective, from like much more of a legal perspective. Sure. But the thing is the law doesn't know what actually happened during that marriage. You see what I'm saying? So yes, there's a bit of a legal and then a math equation if assets were ever to get split. And that's a big problem to me. And the thing is that I don't think that can ever be solved, and ever, right? Like, because there's not a camera, at least not right now in 2020.
There's always three sides to a story, right?
There's always three sides to a story. So what's interesting, you know what I mean? Like, I'm in the mind of, you know, why can't we just promise ring this thing out? You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like, irrespective if you're going into it from a business deal, irrespective if you're going into it because you're in love, which I think is probably the dumbest one of the three, or if you're going through a spiritual view, I still look towards, you know, what is the benefit? The spiritual one, it's a benefit because it aligns to your belief system, your morals, your values, right? Like the love one, like that's the weird one right there. Like I don't think you should ever get married for love. Because that doesn't make sense. Like,
and isn't that backwards too?
Well, you should be in love first before you get married.
Right.
You can have love without marriage, right?
Right, you can, but I think just to undergird your point, you don't need marriage for love. Marriage is kind of an outward act that you do to symbolize the love that's already there.
Yeah, but then I hear people say, but you know, but it was the logical next step, or it was the next thing to do, and
it depends on how you live it.
Depends on how you live it. That's a good point. It depends how you define happiness and success.
Depends on how you live it. Yeah, it depends on how you live it, where you live it, how you live it, all of that. It's logical depending on where you at.
Now the other one was business. And this one I still have a bit of a problem with.
Okay.
And I think a bit of a problem with this one in a sense that like if you take it out the legal, right, and you put it to more kind of practical, like what's going on.
Okay.
Right, like, so me, for example, someone that I would want to be in a relationship with is probably not going to, most likely, more often than not have an accumulation of net worth.
Okay.
Right? Because, you know, generally I look downward in age, they're younger, and age correlated with financial gain, what have you. Right? So, like, then I think of like, okay, well, if that's the situation, then I probably have to get a prenup just to make sure that what we came in here with, you know, if this shit was to end, it would be split in a way that doesn't rip whatever I gained before or during or what have you. So, like, even from a business decision, unless, like, you have a business, see, and then my thing is, why not just be a business partner? You can, is what you're saying. And you don't identify with that because that's not what you do it for. You do it for spiritual.
I don't, but I also think that there are certain protections that are attached to prenups that may not necessarily be attached to just one-on-one contracts. So you can't have a prenup unless there's a nup. So it's a stronger version of a contract. I think has a little bit more teeth. But if we're just talking, you said take legal out of it. Again, I conceded to your entire point. Just said that that's not my life experience, not where I'm at in life. Because I just have a different set of beliefs and values. I want my bedroom to be undefiled, which means marriage is a requirement.
There it is. All right, so listen. This is my first time seeing a video with her. I've generally, like, I feel like on the internet she gets a really bad rap. I don't know why. Maybe I should do some other videos and try to. Oh, you tired, girl?
Child, I think it was the one. I think it was the one. 32, John.
Red Cup Chew.
Right.
And that is not my name.
Oh,
Jesus.
Oh my God.
That goes my name right down there.
I have to practice that enough times that I remember it.
Questions, comments, concerns. Y'all already know what to do. Team. Let's take a break, girl.
Yeah, let's take a break.
Let's take a
You
break.
be with some heat today. We started off rocky. You gonna clap them out so we can talk?
Mediocre tourism reviews at gmail.com. TT, yet again, thank you for coming through. Guys, as you know, I have Patreon. Go down to the link down in the description. It's right down there. Go see what the benefits are. Okay?
See y'all.
Until next time, YouTube. Peace!